Mai Furuki was unable to grasp her current situation. To be honest, it was a miracle that she was still alive. She had intended to die alongside Vega, and had leaped into an unknown dimensional gap. That part had gone as planned, but she had then been caught in an overwhelmingly powerful space-time storm. The moment she lost consciousness, she had resigned herself to death, but for some reason, she had woken up. The storm had been an immense torrent of energy, transcending space, time, and dimensions so vast that Mai couldn't even begin to comprehend its scale. Surviving such a terrifying supernatural phenomenon was nothing short of a miracle. However, miracles only went so far. She had no idea where she was, and with her current state, there was nothing she could do. There was no ground beneath her feet, not even air around her. She had no sense of direction, no up, down, left, or right. There was nothing to see. No, that wasn't quite right. She could make out multicolored lights, like a rainbow, forming intricate geometric patterns. They resembled snowflakes, though they were likely not deliberately shaped by anyone. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying, like a vision one might see just before death. Was she simply wander here, unable to do anything? When her energy reached zero, would that be the moment her life came to an end? That was what she thought. But that assumption turned out to be wrong. "Hey, you're awake." Someone spoke to her in an almost casual tone. It wasn't a voice, but a thought. The space Mai was in had no air or anything else. Magicules flickered in and out of existence, but spoken words wouldn't carry a sound. Even so, she recognized that voice. Wait, Yuuki-kun. It was someone who shouldn't be here. The one who had taken her in and cared for her when she first got lost in this unknown world. A cunning, enigmatic, yet incredibly reliable young man. At least, that was how he looked. In truth, she suspected he was much older than her. Otherwise, things simply wouldn't add up. He had been summoned to an alternate world known as the Axis world, and, within just a decade or so, had built a foundation of power within the Empire. He had burned with the ambition of world domination. But then she had heard that he had been killed by the Sorcerer Emperor, Jahal. Mai had despaired upon learning of his death. She had believed that if it were Yuuki, he would have found a way to return them to their original world. So, hearing his voice now could only mean one thing. Oh, I get it. This must be a hallucination. People really do start hearing things right before they die, huh? No, you're wrong. I'm actually right here. Haha. No need for such a realistic explanation. It's just a dream anyway. But still, this is surprising. I thought of Yuuki-kun as reliable, but I never expected that he'd be the last person to come to mind before I died. I couldn't believe that Yuuki was actually there. She had already convinced herself that this was just a hallucination, a vision brought on by the brink of death. Had she liked him? She didn't recall feeling that way, but maybe she had been in love. Since this was just an illusion, she allowed herself to indulge in a girlish fantasy for a moment. But the hallucination showed no sign of fading. Instead, Yuki's thoughts, and another person's, continued to seep into her consciousness. Maybe since this space has no light or anything, it can't recognize us. Yeah, probably. Took us a while to get used to it too, so this little lady's gonna have a tough time for a while. Well, we've got plenty of time, don't we? Plenty, huh? I mean, does time even flow here? Who knows? Not even the boss can figure that out, huh? What should I do? Mai wondered. Could it be? Maybe, just maybe, this isn't a dream or an illusion, but reality. She couldn't shake off the feeling that it was real. And just as the voices suggested, Mai's eyes started to faintly make out shadowy figures. By utilizing thought transmission, which made use of magicules, or magic sense, which allowed her to perceive magicules, she could grasp her surroundings even in this empty space, at least within a short distance. This was thanks to Yuki's power preventing magicules from leaking out, but that wasn't something Mai particularly cared about. The real problem was that, the moment she got used to it, she was able to recognize Yuki and the others. Well, wait. Is that really you, Yuki-kun? I'm here too. Oh, Laplace-san. That's right. At that moment, Mai was finally certain. Ah, this is real. And the instant she realized that, memories of the wild fantasies she had been spouting earlier flooded back into her mind. Overcome with embarrassment, she let out a silent scream within her heart. After waiting for Mai to calm down, they decided to start over. So, Yuki-sama. What's the current situation? You don't need to call me Sama anymore, especially now. Alright. Realizing that there was no point in dodging the issue, Mai gave up and shifted her focus. She tried to gather her thoughts and assess the situation by looking around. What she understood was that they were still drifting in the dimensional void. Thanks to Yuki's mysterious barrier, her magic perception was still active even in this otherworldly space. They say the future is uncertain, but outside the barrier, it truly was an unknown world. In the distance, she could see a shining rainbow, but there was no way to tell what lay between here and there. The colorful sphere swelled up nearby, then burst and disappeared. She had no idea what had just happened, but she could only assume it was something extraordinary. Giving up on trying to understand the outside, Mai turned her gaze back inside the barrier. I can't seem to see clearly. Laplace, I can only see your upper half. Mai sounded a bit uneasy as she reported this, but Laplace laughed it off. Don't worry, that's correct. I lost my lower half when Jahal blew me away. Mai thought it wasn't exactly a laughing matter, but she felt relieved to know that her perception wasn't faulty. Ahaha, isn't that funny? Well, it's Laplace, so it's fine. No, it's not fine. If we revive you like this, your lower half will be completely exposed, won't it? You can just use magic to whip up some clothes, right? If you say that, it takes all the fun out of it. I'm always the one who has to play the straight man, so I want to joke around for once. Hey, you're pretty good at playing the fool too, you know. Mai was exasperated by the lack of a straight man, but thanks to their comedic banter, her heavy mood lightened a bit. Even though there was no hope in sight, she started to feel like they might be able to pull through. It was strange how that worked. So, Yuki's expression turned serious as he questioned Mai. Since they had plenty of time, Mai was made to explain in detail what had happened. I see. So, the demon lord Melon went berserk, Feldway manipulated her, and Rimura was sent flying and went missing. Wow, that's a pretty big mess, isn't it? On top of that, Iverge is still out there, right? The world must be in complete chaos. That's someone else's problem. Well, yeah. I mean, look at us. We're in this situation. Even if we wanted to do something, there's nothing we can do, right? Well, you know, if we all work together, maybe we can figure something out. Laplace interjected with his usual carefree attitude, but his words trailed off. So even you, Yuki, can't do anything about it. Well, I've been trying a few things, but... In truth, Yuki had already tried everything he could. Thanks to that, even though they had been thrown into this incomprehensible place, he had managed to immediately set up a barrier to protect themselves. However, that was only a temporary solution. If things continued like this, they would eventually disappear. In this place, it seems like time isn't even flowing. Huh? What? This was Yuki's answer to Laplace's earlier question. Yuki wasn't entirely confident about it, but he couldn't think of any other explanation. I've been observing for a while, and I noticed something. Earlier, that colorful sphere swelled up and disappeared, right? I think that was probably a world, a universe. A universe? A world, you mean? Inside that sphere, time was flowing. The aftermath of that seems to create a flow of time around it, but we can't observe it. To be precise, time was flowing. However, since there was no way to measure it, Yuki speculated that time isn't flowing, or it's flowing very slowly, based on his lack of fatigue or hunger. Yuki cannot interfere with the information particles, nor is it possible for him to observe them. Therefore, everything is based on speculation. However, he fully utilized his genius to deduce the correct answer. That said, it's meaningless because there's no way to return. So, does that mean one of those rainbow-colored light spheres is the world we came from? I don't think so. I believe those are derivative worlds. From their creation to their end, everything about them is completely different. Considering the observable energy levels, it seemed that the light spheres visible here were unrelated to the world Yuki and the others came from. Mai agreed with Yuki's opinion. True. If it were somewhere visible, I could easily return using my authority. Even with Mai's computational abilities, she had deduced that the coordinates of this area were vastly different from those of the main axis world. To perform a space-time leap using Mai's ultimate skill, King of Star Realm, Terra Mater, she needed the coordinates of her current location, the coordinates of her destination, and the energy required for the jump. On a planetary scale, this ability was highly convenient, as it didn't require an enormous amount of energy to execute. For this reason, Mai had memorized the coordinates of places she had been to before. However, since she couldn't even begin to guess the coordinates of their current location, she had already given up on the idea of returning. As Mai explained this in a halting manner, Laplace let out a deep sigh and hung his head. Totally at a loss, huh? Laplace's disappointment was profound, especially since he had held out hope that Mai's authority might allow them to return. Well, that was understandable. Yuki's reaction was different. Wait a second. Could it be that Mai's authority is evolving? Well, yes. Princess Shuna did something to my authority, and... Mai went on to explain the situation. In order to break free from Feldway's domination, Shuna had manipulated their authorities. As a result, Mai's authority had become easier to use. Mai could only feel genuine admiration for Shuna, who had performed such incomprehensible actions with such ease. Seriously, she's just as abnormal as that slime himself. Not to mention, her companions are all weird too. I feel the same way. I wish people wouldn't talk about toying with others' powers so casually. Upon hearing Mai's explanation, even Yuuki could only be left in disbelief. However, at the same time, he had come up with a certain hypothesis. By the way, why do you think Mai was able to jump all the way here? Huh. When asked why, even Mai couldn't answer. After all, she has simply found herself in this place without realizing it. She hadn't intentionally activated her powers, so it was only natural that she couldn't explain it. Were you saying it was a coincidence? Well, that's... Now that he mentioned it, it did seem incredibly unnatural. The probability of encountering an acquaintance in the dimensional rift at the edge of existence was practically zero. What happened when you were drifting with Vega? When asked that, Mai remembered. She had been caught in a violent spacetime storm and had been separated from Vega. A violent spacetime storm, huh? Just hearing that, Yuuki seemed to understand. But without voicing his thoughts, he urged Mai to continue. Yeah. It was too large-scale to be called a mere supernatural phenomenon, and I couldn't even grasp the full picture of it. But even though you were caught in it, you somehow ended up unharmed. That's right. I find it strange too. I don't know if I should call it luck, but it's certain that it wasn't bad luck. Mai answered hesitantly. Yuuki didn't respond to this and instead pondered. Well, if you figured something out, don't keep it to yourself, just tell us. Hey, it's better not to interrupt. Mai-chan, you're still on the boss's side, huh? That's not it, it's not like that. Yuuki was lost in thought for what felt like a few seconds. However, since the concept of time is distorted here, it's unclear how long it actually was. Be that as it may, Yuuki, seeking confirmation, posed his final question. So, Mai, what did you think of at the very last moment? Was it a place she wanted to return to? Or perhaps, someone she wanted to see? Whatever it was, it undoubtedly influenced Mai's authority. That's what Yuuki believed. To this, Mai responded. Well, that was. Mai remembered. The last thing she thought of was about Yuuki. It's just. I thought a little about how you encouraged me, Yuuki-kun. Mai answered hesitantly, mumbling her words. It's not like that. She wanted to explain, but the more she spoke, the more it seemed like she was digging herself into a hole. No, really, I don't have those kinds of feelings at all, okay? Mai replied like that and then climbed up. But for Yuuki, that was enough. Of course, he wasn't a love-struck fool like Mai. He had almost perfectly understood Mai's authority. Yeah, I get it. More importantly, I think I've figured out how your authority has changed. Really? Well, that's good, wait, huh? Yuki's indifferent response left Mai feeling a bit sad. Moreover, Laplace's gaze was subtly painful. She looked at Mai with eyes that seemed to pity her. Mai wanted to scream out loud that it really wasn't like that. Of course, she thought of Yuuki as reliable, but it wasn't romantic feelings or anything like that. However, being completely brushed off like this hurt her pride as a woman. But saying that out loud would feel like admitting defeat. Just as she was thinking that, Yuuki dropped a bombshell. Probably, if you use that authority, you can go to the place you desire. That means... It means we can go back. Yuuki was a true genius. Just by hearing about it from Mai, he had discerned the essence of King of Star Realm, Terra Mater. He had accurately deduced its authority, the ability to reach any desired place across all space and time. This was truly remarkable. However, even though this had been figured out, the energy problem still remained unresolved.